The thing is, I thought it was only a joke because everyone laughed first. Of course, jokes sound cleaner before the person you love hears the part you meant. 2 paper plates, 1 backyard table, and my fiancé's face turning quiet across the smoke. By morning, the wedding we had planned for a year no longer belonged to me. My name is Valentina Moretti. I am 31, and I worked as a patient coordinator at a cosmetic dermatology clinic where faces became problems before lunch. I saw myself as the woman who understood beauty without being ruled by it, which was a neat performance and, of course, not the whole thing. The thing is, when you spend every day naming small flaws gently, you start believing love should survive being edited. The clinic smelled like eucalyptus towels and expensive sunscreen. People came in with photos on their phones, asking about jawlines, skin texture, eyelids, symmetry. I knew when to say refreshed instead of younger. I knew when to call fear a concern. 2 mirrors, 1 consultation chair, a woman asking if her husband would notice. Adrian used to wait for me outside that clinic on long days. My fiancé was not polished in the way my patients meant polished. He had a strong nose, tired eyes when he worked late, and a smile that looked shy before it became warm. 4 years together, 11 months engaged, 12 days from the wedding. Once, before a clinic conference, I left my passport in our apartment and did not notice until I was already at the airport. Adrian drove 3 hours through rain to bring it. He arrived with wet sleeves, gas station coffee, and no lecture. He only asked if I still had time to make the flight. Back then, that kind of love made me feel safe. Later, safety started to feel like a beige room. At the bridal fitting studio, the lights were too white and the mirrors were too honest. Marcy sat behind me with champagne she had not paid for and told the stylist that I looked like the kind of bride men regret losing. The stylist smiled and said Adrian was lucky. I smiled too, because of course lucky sounded better than matched. Marcy tilted her head and said Adrian photographed better from one side. She said it lightly. The stylist laughed with her mouth closed. Adrian stood near the door holding the vendor folder. He heard it. His hand moved once over the folder edge, smoothing paper that was already flat. Later, he asked softly if wedding stress had changed the way I looked at him. What he meant was that he had felt the room shift. What I heard was that he wanted reassurance like another wedding task. I told him weddings made everyone dramatic. Then my phone lit up. Marcy had texted that I was too pretty to pretend attraction did not matter. I left the message unanswered, but I did not delete it. The wedding planner's office smelled like vanilla coffee and printer ink. Celia Grant had built her whole business on pretending panic was just a timeline issue. She sat across from us with a binder thick enough to stop a door, showing us table mock-ups, cake designs, and a tiny silver wedding cake topper shaped like a bride and groom standing too close together. The thing is, I liked the topper at first. It was simple, a little old-fashioned. Adrian picked it up and smiled like it already belonged to us. 1 silver couple, 2 painted faces, a future small enough to fit in his palm. Celia said it would look beautiful on the lemon cake. Adrian said lemon was my favourite. He remembered that from our 3rd date when I said chocolate cake was for people who wanted applause. He laughed then like I had said something clever instead of silly. That memory should have warmed me. Instead, Leo Hart walked in with Noah to drop off a speaker cable for the BBQ that weekend, and the room changed the way rooms changed around men like Leo. He had clean edges, easy teeth, and the kind of face people trusted before he earned it. He was not close enough to be dangerous yet. That was how I explained him to myself. Marcy came with them because she always knew when a room had better lighting somewhere else. She kissed my cheek and told me the cake samples looked expensive enough to forgive the venue deposit. Leo looked at the topper in Adrian's hand and said, our future children would either inherit Adrian's seriousness or my bone structure, and everyone should pray strategically. People laughed. Even Adrian smiled. I laughed too long. Celia looked at me, then at Adrian. Her pen stopped moving for 1 second. At the engagement photo session 2 days later, the park smelled like wet grass and mulch. Adrian wore the navy suit I chose because it made him look less tired around the eyes. The photographer asked us to stand near a stone wall. Adrian put his arm around me carefully, like he still thought I might break if he held too strongly. Careful had become his default. Careful when he kissed me in front of people. Careful when he complimented me, as if desire needed a permit. Careful when Marcy joked. Careful when Leo stood too close at gatherings. The photographer showed me a preview on the back of the camera. Adrian's face was angled toward the light. His nose looked sharper than usual. Not awful, just not the version I wanted printed on a welcome sign. I asked if we could try another angle, maybe with Adrian turning slightly. I said the light was better from his other side. Adrian heard it because he was standing 6 inches away. The photographer nodded too quickly. Celia, who had come to check flower placement for the photo board, looked down at her phone without typing. Marcy whispered that I was smart to fix visuals before wedding photos lived forever. Of course, that made sense to me then. Photos stayed. People judged. Weddings were public documents wearing flowers. Adrian went quiet for the rest of the session. He still held my hand when the photographer asked. He still smiled when I squeezed his arm, but the smile did not reach the part of his face I had corrected. At home, the apartment smelled like takeout noodles, and the laundry soap he used because I said the old one smelled cheap. Adrian set the photo envelope on the counter and asked why I had corrected his face in front of the photographer. Specific. Factual. One named incident. One real question. What he meant was that I had touched the place he trusted me not to touch. What I heard was that he wanted me to pretend pictures did not matter. I told him photos were forever. I said he should want me to care. I said it was not about his face, it was about lighting. He said I had said his other side was better. He did not raise his voice. That made it harder to dismiss and easier to resent. I told him he was making one camera angle into a wound. He rubbed his thumb along the corner of the photo envelope. He said he had been trying not to be sensitive because he knew he was not the type of man people expected beside me. That should have stopped me. Instead, I said insecurity was not romantic. It came out clean, like something I would say to a patient who wanted a discount after bad planning. He put the envelope in the drawer under the counter. Not slammed. Stored. Celia texted me later that Adrian had looked hurt during the photos. I read the message while standing in the bathroom with one earring in. 2 earrings, 1 phone. No answer that made me look kind. I did not reply. On Friday, Marcy came to the clinic break room with iced coffee and the kind of grin that made bad ideas feel styled. She said Adrian needed thicker skin before marrying a woman who looked like me. I said he was not ugly. She said nobody said ugly, which meant someone had. I laughed because not laughing would have made the word heavier. Leo replied to my story that evening with a flame emoji under a cropped preview of the engagement photo. I had cut the image so Adrian's face was half turned away. Leo wrote that I looked impossible to forget. I set the phone face down before Adrian walked in. He saw the movement. He did not ask. That was his flaw. Adrian avoided confrontation like silence could protect love from getting scratched. He swallowed small things and called it patience. I kept offering him sharper things to swallow. That weekend's BBQ was supposed to be simple. Noah's backyard, paper plates, grill smoke, people asking about the wedding because the date was close enough to make everyone feel involved. By then, the silver cake topper was in a box on our dining shelf. Adrian had placed it there after the planner meeting. Every time I passed it, the little silver groom seemed to be smiling like he had not heard the photographer. That irritated me more than it should have. Noah's backyard had string lights, a half-clean patio table, and the smell of grill smoke sticking to everyone's clothes before sunset. His wife had put paper plates near the cooler, the thick kind that still bent when barbecue sauce found the weak spot. The thing is, public happiness has a sound, and of course I trusted that sound more than the private quiet building beside me. Adrian arrived with me. He carried the salad bowl because he always carried the heavier thing without asking. Sophia, his younger sister, waved from near the fence. She hugged him first, then me. Her hug was warm, but her eyes checked his face before she let go. Sophia had always been like that, protective in small movements. She knew things about Adrian I only knew because he once said them in bed with the lights off. He had told me early in our relationship that he never understood why I picked him. He had laughed after saying it, but not enough to hide the soft part. I had kissed him then and told him not to be ridiculous. That was before I started using the same fear as a joke. Leo stood by the grill with Noah, holding a beer and letting the smoke make him look casual instead of posed. Marcy was already there in sunglasses too large for her face, telling a story about a bride who cried over napkin folds. Celia came later with a bottle of wine and a careful smile. The first hour was safe. Wedding talk, seating drama, cake flavour arguments. Someone asked about children after the wedding. Noah said we would make beautiful babies because everyone said that to engaged couples when they did not know what else to ask. Leo looked at me and said, genetics could be generous if they knew where to focus. Marcy laughed first. She asked if I was ready for little Adrian's running around with serious eyebrows and budget spreadsheets. She did the eyebrow thing, and people laughed because Adrian did have serious eyebrows when he concentrated. Adrian smiled, small, tight, trying. I could have stopped there. But Leo was watching. Marcy was pleased. Noah had his phone low in his hand because he liked filming little clips for the group chat. Sophia was close enough to hear. Celia was near the table peeling the label off her water bottle. The room tilted, even outside. I said Adrian would never get me pregnant if I had any say in it. Someone laughed, fast and unsure. Marcy asked what I meant, still smiling. That was the second door. I could have stepped back. I could have said I meant we were waiting. I could have touched Adrian's arm and made the joke harmless while it still had a chance. Instead, I watched Leo's face and chose the room. I said I refused to ruin our kids with Adrian's looks. I said it like a punchline, with one shoulder lifted, like beauty was a fact and cruelty was just its funny cousin. The laugh came in pieces. Marcy's laugh started high and stopped halfway. Noah's phone stayed up for 1 second too long. Celia looked at the ground. Someone near the cooler made a sound that tried to become a cough. Adrian set his paper plate down on the patio table. The plate bent slightly under the weight of ribs and sauce. A dark line of sauce slid toward the edge and stopped near his thumb. He moved his hand away before it touched him. That small movement is still sharp in my head. He did not ask me to repeat it. He did not tell me to stop. He did not defend his face in front of people who had just heard me make it a warning label for our future children. Sophia's face changed first. Not anger. A closing. Like a door inside her had found its lock. Noah lowered his phone too late. Leo took a drink and looked toward the grill, already protecting himself from the heat he had helped invite. I told myself everyone was being dramatic. Of course I did. Drama made them the problem. Adrian walked toward the side gate. I followed because people were watching, and being left looked worse than being cruel. The side gate smelled like wet wood and charcoal. Music from the patio sounded far enough away to make the silence between us feel staged. Adrian asked if I meant to make him a warning label for our future children. Quiet debrief. No raised voice. The quiet was the point. I said everyone knew it was a joke. He asked which part was the joke, that I would not have children with him, or that his face would damage them. The question was too exact. It gave me no soft edge to hold. I told him he was twisting it because he already believed bad things about himself. That was almost kind if you did not listen closely. He looked at me, and for a second the light from the patio hit one side of his face, the side I had asked the photographer to avoid. He looked older there, not unattractive, just tired in a way I had helped create. He said he needed air. I told him we were already outside. He nodded once like he had put that sentence somewhere permanent and left through the side gate before dessert. When I came back to the patio, Marcy was staring at her drink. Celia asked if Adrian was okay. Sophia did not ask me anything. She walked past me and went through the gate after him. Noah looked at his phone, then at me. He said the clip had already gone into the group chat because he thought it was just BBQ banter. His voice came out smaller than usual. I told him to delete it. He did. But deletion is not magic. 3 people had already seen it. Maybe more. Group chats are rooms with no walls. Leo came near me and said people were sensitive before weddings. He said it softly, not quite taking my side. Agenda B was there already, though I did not have that language. He liked being part of the spark, not the fire report. Marcy touched my elbow and said it would blow over, but her hand left quickly. 2 paper plates. 1 tagged video. No one laughing the same way after. By the time I got home, Adrian was not there. The silver cake topper sat on the dining shelf, still facing forward, still pretending there was a wedding to stand on. Adrian's apartment had always smelled like cedar soap and the dark coffee he made too strong. That Sunday it smelled like cardboard. Not moving boxes yet. Just the storage box he had pulled from the closet and left open near the dining table. The thing is, objects know before people say the sentence. Of course I told myself the box meant nothing. He let me in because Adrian was not cruel with doors. His hair was damp, and he wore the grey shirt he used when he cleaned. On the table sat the vendor binder, the engagement photo envelope, and the silver cake topper still in its clear box. I started with a tactical apology. I said the joke landed worse than I meant. I said I had been nervous, and Leo had made that stupid genetics comment, and Marcy had pushed it. I said everyone knew I loved him. Adrian listened without sitting. Then he said it was not one joke. He said it was the photo angle, the cropped picture, the comments from Marcy, the way I corrected his face in public, and then the BBQ. He said the pattern had become too clear for him to keep pretending it was wedding stress. Naming the pattern. The accumulation, not one incident. I heard him building a case against me. What he meant was that he had finally stopped swallowing separate pieces. I told him he was making me sound like someone who hated him. He said he did not think I hated him. He said he thought I liked who I became when other people agreed he was lucky to have me. That sentence had no handle. I could not pull it apart without cutting myself. Sophia came by that afternoon with his spare suit bag from her car. She did not hug me. She placed the bag over a chair and asked if I knew he had told me one insecurity because he trusted me to protect it. I said Sophia was making it sound like I planned a speech. She said planning was not the only way to betray someone. 2 women. 1 suit bag. No sisterly softness left. I said Adrian had always decided he was beneath me before I ever said a word. I said walking around with that kind of insecurity made every compliment feel like a contract renewal. Sophia looked at Adrian, not me. He did not defend himself. That was the worst part. He simply looked at the floor. For 1 small second, he was not methodical. He was simply sad. His hand rested on the silver cake topper box. He did not open it. He only touched the plastic lid with 2 fingers, like a person checking if something was still there. I misread it because I needed to. I told myself he was staging pain for Sophia. At the cake tasting appointment the next day, the bakery smelled like sugar, lemon zest, and hot coffee. Celia sat beside me with her planner closed. That alone was a message. Celia never closed a planner near unresolved details. The baker brought out 3 sample slices: lemon, almond, vanilla. The silver cake topper sat on the display shelf because I had brought it weeks earlier for size matching. The little couple looked bright under the bakery lights. Adrian stared at it while the baker described frosting textures. Then he stood, walked to the shelf, and picked it up. He did not ask me. He did not announce anything. He took a square of white tissue paper from the counter, wrapped the topper carefully, and placed it inside his coat pocket. The movement was slow, too slow to dismiss. The tissue made a dry sound against the silver. His thumb pressed the paper flat over the little groom's head first, then the bride's. He was not angry. He was not punishing me. He was protecting a small object from a room where it no longer made sense. That was the trigger. The bakery noise thinned. Forks on plates, a register opening, Celia breathing through her nose. Adrian had been building a future with me while I treated that future like material. Open houses on Sundays, vendor folders, lemon cake, a silver couple small enough for his hand. He had not been asking to be worshipped. He had been asking not to be made ugly inside the dream we were supposed to share. For one breath, I almost saw him. Then I closed the door. I told myself he was making the wedding about male pride. Men only cared about looks when the insult finally turned toward them. I asked if we were doing theatre now. Celia put her fork down. Adrian did not answer. After the appointment, Celia refused to call the BBQ video out of context. She said it had context. She had heard the photo comment, the planner jokes, the way I kept laughing after Adrian went quiet. Her voice was gentle, which made it harder to hate. I told her she was paid to plan weddings, not interpret them. She said she was also paid to know when a wedding was in danger. Marcy's replies got slower that week. Leo's messages became safer. No more flame emojis. No late-night compliments. When I sent him a joke about everyone acting like I had committed a crime, he answered that weddings made people intense. People. Not us. Not you. People. That night, Adrian removed his tuxedo appointment from our shared calendar. No message, no warning. Just one empty square where his name had been. I stared at the calendar until the screen dimmed. Then I tapped it awake again, like the appointment might return if I caught the phone fast enough. It did not. The venue parking lot was half empty when I arrived early because I wanted control over the first impression. The air smelled like wet pavement and the florist's delivery truck parked near the side door. The thing is, I still believed a united front could be arranged like centerpieces. 2 signatures. 1 meeting. A future forced back into shape. Adrian arrived on time. Not early. Not late. On time in a way that felt chosen. He wore a blue shirt and carried the vendor binder under one arm. The wrapped cake topper was not visible, but I knew it was somewhere near him because absence can sit in a room too. I told him we needed to look normal in front of the venue coordinator. He said he was there because contracts needed to be handled properly. Properly. The word had no heat. That made it worse. I said he was punishing me publicly now. He said he had not spoken publicly about anything. He said the video had done enough speaking. We did not go inside yet. The venue doors reflected us in dark glass. In the reflection, I looked like a bride from the shoulders down and a defendant from the neck up. I hated that thought and blamed the lighting. I told him he had already decided I was out of his league long before the BBQ. I said he stopped letting himself be desired because he was always waiting for proof that I would regret him. I said I had spent years fighting a verdict he wrote against himself before I ever entered the room. There it was, the one true thing. Adrian did not deny it. His mouth moved once, then closed. He looked past me toward the empty garden where our ceremony chairs were supposed to go. He said that might be true. He said he had carried that fear badly. He said he had made himself smaller beside me before I ever asked him to. For 1 second, the statement sat between us like something we could both touch. Then he said I had taken the softest place in him and handed it to a backyard full of people as a joke. I told him he was making one BBQ joke into his whole identity. The words came fast, too fast. They arrived dressed as defense and stood there looking like cruelty. Adrian nodded, once again storing what I said instead of fighting it. He said he was willing to hear one honest apology without explanations, without Leo, without Marcy, without genetics, without the word joke. Final and clean. One real offer. I could have done it. There in the parking lot with the florist truck humming and the venue doors reflecting our ruined posture, I could have said I used his fear because I wanted the room. I could have said I was sorry without asking the sentence to protect me. Instead, I said I would not marry a man who needed a formal apology because his fiancée had a sharp sense of humor. The reflection in the glass made my mouth look smaller than it felt. Adrian said he would handle the wedding properly. No legal words, no threat. The tone was the threat. Inside, Elaine Brooks, the venue coordinator, greeted us with professional warmth. Her office had cream walls, a water pitcher with lemon slices, and framed photos of other people's ceremonies. I sat in the chair closest to the window because natural light made me feel less cornered. Adrian asked for printed copies of our vendor list, deposit schedule, and cancellation terms. Elaine asked if we were reviewing contingency plans. Adrian said yes, in a voice that did not invite questions. I laughed once and said he loved paperwork. No one joined. Elaine printed the documents. The machine made a steady clicking sound from the side table. Page after page, contracts, dates, payment lines, deadlines. Adrian placed each page in the binder and clipped them by category. Venue, catering, cake, florist, photography. He had become logistical. I became louder because there was nothing else to hold. I texted Marcy from under the desk. I wrote that Adrian was acting like a wounded accountant and asked her to tell me I was not insane. The message stayed unread for hours. When it finally changed, she did not send a joke. She wrote that she thought I should talk to him. One sentence. No spark. No applause. My audience had become busy. After the meeting, I sat in my car and opened Leo's thread. I sent him a photo of the venue garden with a caption saying some people turned one bad joke into a national emergency. He answered 20 minutes later that he hoped things worked out and that he did not want to be in the middle of relationship drama. Relationship drama. He had stood by the grill and enjoyed being the handsome comparison. Now he wrote like a man stepping away from spilled sauce before it touched his shoes. I went to Adrian's apartment that evening without asking. He opened the door but did not step back far enough for me to enter fully. The apartment smelled like clean counters and closed windows. On the kitchen table sat the wrapped cake topper. White tissue, neat folds, no ribbon. I asked if he planned to keep displaying little symbols until I apologized correctly. He said it was not a symbol. It was ours. And now he did not know where to put it. That sentence was too plain, too hard to fight. I said he was enjoying making me feel cruel. He said he was not enjoying anything. The quiet after that had weight. Not the cold kind, the finished kind. I looked for the old Adrian then. The one who would soften if my voice broke, the one who would ask if I had eaten, the one who would take one step toward me even after I took two away. He was still there, maybe, but he was behind something now. He placed the vendor binder beside the wrapped topper. He did not open either. I told him I had already said the joke landed badly. He said landing was what happened by accident. Aim was different. I asked if Sophia had written that line for him. His face changed by 1 inch. That was the line I crossed before the end. Not the BBQ, not the photo angle. This one, in his kitchen, after he had given me one clean door and I had chosen the window with glass in it. He said I should leave. I said fine because fine is what people say when nothing is fine and they cannot afford better words. At the door, he did not ask me to drive safe. The wrapped cake topper stayed on the table between us, and he said nothing else. The wedding vendor appointment was at 10 in the morning in Elaine Brooks's office behind the ballroom. The hallway smelled like floor polish and flowers from another bride's tour. I arrived with my planner tote, lipstick fixed, and one last belief that this was a cancellation scare. Adrian would soften once adults were present. Elaine already had printed forms on the table. Adrian sat beside Sophia. His vendor binder was open. Sophia's hands were folded over her phone, and she did not look at me when I entered. Elaine named the document in her careful office voice. Formal wedding contract cancellation notice and reimbursement demand for non-refundable shared expenses. She said the scheduled payment review meeting was in 14 days, and all documented deposits, vendor losses, and family withdrawals would be reviewed then. I reached for the top page and pressed my nail into the signature line, until the paper dented. The BBQ video was listed in the notes, not as gossip, as the event that caused Adrian's family to withdraw from shared payment commitments. Noah's clip, Celia's written statement, Sophia's note that Adrian's known insecurity had been used publicly. The cropped engagement photo was not proof by itself, but it sat in the timeline like a small stone in a shoe. I said the joke had been taken out of context. Elaine turned one page and said context did not change cancellation deadlines. No cruelty, no comfort, just the sentence. Sophia looked at Adrian then, not at me. Her thumb moved once over her phone screen, but she did not pick it up. That was her witness response, stillness on his side of the table. In the parking lot, Leo sent one message saying he never meant to be involved in relationship drama. By the time I tried to answer, his profile photo had disappeared. I moved out of Adrian's apartment plans and into a short-term rental above a nail salon that smelled like acetone through the bathroom vent. The payment review left me responsible for part of the vendor loss I kept calling unfair in my head. Marcy stopped replying after midnight, Celia moved my messages to email only, and Noah never invited me back to the BBQ group chat. Leo became a blank circle in my phone. At the clinic, I still told patients that small changes could protect confidence, but my own name sounded different when the receptionist said it. The thing is, I thought beauty protected me from being pitied. Of course, I thought the cruel sentence would prove I still had power, options, distance. 2 paper plates. 1 silver couple. A room full of people who stopped laughing too late. I wanted to avoid looking ordinary beside Adrian, and I made myself smaller than every fear I had about him. The silver wedding cake topper stayed wrapped in white tissue paper on his kitchen table. The wedding did not end at the BBQ. It ended when everyone stopped laughing.